Okay, ready when you are.
Thank you all for coming tonight to the December 1st meeting of the Planning Commission. We'll start off tonight with an invocation by Jeff Gilbert.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the ability to gather here tonight to do the city's business. May what we do here tonight be pleasing in your sight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Did everybody get a copy of the packet with the minutes from October 6th meeting? Everybody get a chance to look at it?
I make the motion that they be approved as read.
Second, if we will vote yes or no. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Any addenda to the agenda?
No, sir. I want to make two comments before we get started, though. We have a microphone set up here over on my left, your right. Anybody from the public who would like to speak on issues tonight, we would ask for them to go to the microphone, state their name and address. And then second, I mentioned to a few people at the start that if they want to get a copy of this PDD document, if they would give Shalandria their email address, I'd be happy to email them a copy tomorrow. So.
Sounds good. So we'll move along to the public hearing. We'll start with ANX 2013.
Yes, sir. The applicant is proposing to annex and zone to PDD, Planned Development District, approximately 131 acres of land, generally located along Harriet Circle and Crestview Road. You do have a copy of the map in your packet, and there's a large-scale version over on the side. The annexation area currently consists of, it's actually 7 now, separate lots of record. The applicant is seeking to develop a mixed-use residential project on the site that will include single-family houses and townhomes. The property is contiguous to the city via an annexation strip that was approved by the council in October. In terms of existing zoning, the subject properties are currently zoned a combination of R20 single-family residential and IZD innovative zoning district in the county. That's essentially the same as our PUD. Surrounding properties are also zoned R20, R10 single-family residential, and RA residential agricultural in the county. The neighboring city properties are zoned PDD, and that would be the where it touches would be at Creighton Hall Townhomes. In terms of existing land use, the subject properties are mostly vacant. An elementary school, single-family residential dwellings, vacant land, and a church are within close proximity to the site. This is a PDD, so there is a document that has been drafted which addresses a number of issues, uses, setbacks, landscaping, a variety of issues related to the project. It's currently divided into 4 tracts of land for the development. You have that in your packet as well. Tract A is the one that goes behind and to the north side of the elementary school. Tract B would be just to the north of that. Tract C is the property across the intersection of Crestview Road, and then Tract D is the vacant tract directly across from Midway Elementary. Again, the PDD document establishes development standards for each tract, types of residential lots, lot widths, setbacks, minimum number of units, dwelling square footages, landscaping and screening, all that can be included in the contents of the document. In addition, other requirements such as common areas, sidewalks, etc. are outlined in the PDD document. Per our guidelines, at least 10% of development must consist of open space. Again, Tract A is on the western side of Harriet Circle, bordering the elementary school. It permits single-family homes and townhouses on the 38 acres. Single-family lots will have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Townhome lots being a minimum of 2,250 square feet. Tract A will have a maximum of 200 residential units and will not exceed 4.97 units per acre. Tract B, again, is up at the southwest corner of Crestview and Midway Road. Permits single-family homes and townhouses again on 31.9 acres. Single-family lots will have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet, and again, townhomes 2,250 square feet. Will have a maximum of 95 residential units and will not exceed 2.98 units per acre. Tract C is across the intersection of Crestview. Permits, again, single-family townhomes on 19.97 acres. Same lot sizes for single-family and townhomes as the previous 2 tracts. maximum of 100 residential units, and will not exceed 5 units per acre. And then tract D, across from the elementary school, it's 39.6 acres, single-family houses only on this lot. Again, a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Just for comparison, our minimum standard zoning for single-family residential is 5,000 square feet. My understanding is, I think the single-family, this will be the first tract to develop. I think their preliminary numbers think the lots will be closer to 6,000 square feet, but that 5,000 does match our smallest minimum standard zoning category. One of the issues that we've talked about in this area is traffic demand. Harriet Circle and the Midway Road, Crestview intersection were identified as a need for future road improvements. The Anderson Area Transportation Study, ANAT's policy committee, included this area in their long-range plan. These roads are state maintained, however, and so the DOT is in the process of creating preliminary designs. It would affect the intersection with Crestview and Midway, and then we do not have the final recommendation yet, but the other deals with the intersection of Harriet Circle and Midway. There's a couple of different options that are in play there. We hope to get those within the next 2 weeks or so. We did contact DOT today, but they still do not have those ready to go yet. I think you'll end up with 2 traffic circles, and Harriet Circle will probably bend into Midway Road, and so that other portion would be abandoned with the non-90 degree intersection. And hopefully that will be improvements to the traffic in the area. I cannot talk about timelines because, again, we are not in control of that. Once they do the preliminary design, we approve that, then they'll go into the actual engineering on the road improvements. So obviously the developer is interested in that happening quicker, and so they have been communicating with DOT to ensure that the planned traffic improvements and proposed development will mesh with each other's plans. At this point, we are only approving the language in the PDD. We are not approving a preliminary plat. That will come at a later date, again, because they need more information from DOT on their final plans for the road changes. But that will happen in the future. They will have to bring a preliminary plat back to this board where you will approve road layouts and lots and all of that in accordance with this PDD document if it is adopted. One thing I wanted to mention, part of this property has already been approved for development in the county. Tracts A and B, the parts that are zoned innovative zoning district in the county, have already been approved for 183 single-family houses. That's about half the property with 183 units on it. And so that could happen today without any action by this board or by city council at all. They are adding to that. Tract C and Tract D are not part of that, and so it is larger because of that. They're adding more property. It will be also a little more dense than what that previous one called for. One of the numbers that's a little scary for people is if you add up all those tracts, it comes out to about 575 residential units. But they have, there is a change in the document, and I'm trying to find it here. Yes, so 3 development standards. Yes, it says 575, but they are agreeing in there. It says a maximum of 450 residential units will be allowed in the entire development. So even though those tracts add up to larger numbers, at no point can any of the projects in this area add up to more than 450 houses. So they are limiting that. They're just giving them flexibility to do more in one phase and maybe change their mind and do more or less in a different phase. You have the road improvements are an issue. There's also creeks that run through the property, and so there are moving parts of what the final layout will look like. With that, the staff does recommend approval of the request. This area is within the boundaries of the city's sewer service area, and it also is within range for the provision of city services. We provide to Rockwell Plantation, Creighton Hall Townhomes, Martin's Trail, which is under construction right now, further down Harriet Circle. So trash service, police and fire will all be provided from day one if this is annexed and developed in the city. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff. The applicant is here. They do not have a formal presentation, but they're happy to answer any questions that you have for them as well.
Yes, who are the partners in Crest Creek LLC?
Our contacts are Mr. Timmons and Mr. Curtis, who are in the back of the room.
I do have a question on the PDD. Have we seen other developments around this area that are similar in scope to this?
Actually, right at the very bottom of the map where Martin's Trail is, this was annexed in, I want to say 2005, 2006, maybe by the time it was finalized. It was a very similar process to this. That was 186 acres, I believe. And we did the same thing at that point. They were not ready to develop yet, so we annexed it into the city. We adopted the document, and that later developed as Rockwell Plantation 1, Rockwell Plantation 2, Martin's Trail, which is under construction now, and then there's 2 more tracks on the south side of that as you head towards the hospital. And so Martin's Trail is 90 houses. Rockwell Plantation, between the 2, is probably in excess of 200 units. And then, of course, you have the other 2 which remain to be developed. So in scale, in size, and in sort of the methodology of how we're approving it without a plat, it has been done and right in this area.
Any other questions for staff?
Is there city water and gas available?
I believe this should be city sewer. It would be Hammond Water. We have talked with them a little bit about it. They are in contact with the developers because there may be, once it's fully developed, there may need to be some water line improvements that need to be made. They do have the Hammond water tank right there, basically across the road from this, but they may need to upgrade some water lines as part of this process. But Hammond is aware of it. We did meet with them, and so gas, I assume gas is available. I live in Oakmont right down from there, and then we have gas service to that subdivision, so.
Jeff, will these houses be all brick houses or with some type of siding and just brick front?
The people here tonight are developing the property. They're not actually building the houses. I anticipate that they will not be 100% brick, that there'll be a mix of materials, say hardy board, brick, stone, is what I've heard, but that has yet to be finalized, so.
And would it be, would it have, would it be sitting on cement slabs, they'll have, underneath?
Right now, that means, slab housing would be allowed. Again, some of that's gonna depend on the builder that ends up building in there, what they want to do, but this does not restrict them at this point from building on a slab.
If you mentioned earlier, you said that there was 6 tax map numbers, now 7. Does that affect anything on our map?
It does not. The small piece kind of right under proposed annexation, that was the other one. That there was possibly going to be a delay because they were finalizing agreements with that property owner, but they've done that now, and so that's back in. So everything on the map that you see is what we're talking about tonight. Kari?
I want to just make sure that I understood how many additional units it would be from the county's approval. So they've approved 180, and the maximum is 450. So this would just be adding 270. Is that?
Right, but also adding 100 acres of land. So because the county development was strictly tracks A and B with 183 units, and so this is of course adding C and D as additional property. So.
Any other questions for staff? The only other one I have is the road maintenance, which is what comes up every time we get
Right.
to the circle, and there's nothing really you can add to that, correct?
Like I said, we anticipate what we think is going to happen, but I cannot give you a hard and fast decision on anything because DOT has not made it yet. But my understanding, again, you'd have a circle probably at Crestview and Midway. My guess is that Harriet Circle will end up bending below the church and then connect into Midway there with another circle. Again, but I don't control that. That's what I'm anticipating the recommendation to be. The other possibility is, instead of that, Midway would bend just below the church and come into Harriet Circle. And then you'd have another circle there. But that's two circles really close together. So my guess is they would go with the other option. But and once we approve the recommendations that they give us, then it would go into the actual engineering and costing out of the project. So. But unfortunately, I cannot give you a timeline. I cannot tell you that's going to happen in 6 weeks or 6 months until we get more information from DOT.
Any other questions?
And Track D is anticipated as being the first one to be developed. So the one across from Midway, that's single family only.
I do have a question for the applicant if they're available.
They are. You want to go to the microphone over there? Just give us your name, please.
Hey, I'm James Curtis.
All right. The question I have, you said that you talked to the Department of Transportation as well. Do you have anything to add to what might be going on with that?
So we've had a couple of conversations with them, and with the COVID stuff, we even got on a pretty lengthy Zoom call with them. So pretty much the iterations that Jeff is telling you about with the traffic circle there at Crestview and Midway, and potentially turning Harriet Circle down. He may know more than I do about the traffic circle down there, or whether it was going to be an intersection there. But I mean, I think those plans have been in the works for quite some time with DOT. You know, I live pretty close to that intersection, so I mean, I'm pretty aware of how it loads up, especially in the mornings with school traffic. So I mean, I think that what they have planned will address those issues.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
So is District 5 been involved?
Have you been in contact with District 5 at all with any of this, or the Department of Transportation? Have you heard anything from them?
Are you talking about? We've talked with DOT on multiple occasions. With as far as the schools are concerned, that we have not had specific conversations with District 5. I mean, this is we're in a thriving, growing community, so these are things that we'll work with them on. Every one of these homes will not show up on day one either, so they'll have plenty of time to plan for the growth and those type of things for our school systems.
So are you planning on developing the entire piece of property in terms of clearing and grading, or are you going to do it in phases?
We're going to do it in phases. Like you said, the plan is to start with the track directly across from Midway Elementary School, and as the DOT work, as we kind of get a better handle on what's going to happen with that, I mean, it kind of drastically affects how our road layouts would be, because one of the proposals they actually take Harriet Circle across our property to tie that in down the Midway. So we'll kind of, as those plans develop, we'll develop the other phases of the property.
Any other questions for that? All right. Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Now we have presentations by opponents or oppositions. So if we do ask that anybody that comes up, if we have multiple people, just try not to say the same thing over and over again. But if you would, please take your step up to the microphone, let us know your name, where you live, and what you would like to say.
My name is Jeffrey Stevens. I'm a longtime resident of Country Place, which is north of Vanderburg, off of Midway Road. And I'm the president of the Homeowners Association for the last couple of years there. And our problems with this whole proposal is not so much the annexation of the property, but the density of the development. And despite some verbal comments that I've heard about 400 or so in 130 acres, I've heard a written estimate of 575 homes, residential units on 130 acres, which is a density of about 5 homes per acre, on average 4.8 something. This is a historic, for generations, a rural residential agricultural community. And we're talking about putting a lot of high-density homes, residential units, in a small area right in the middle of a lot of traffic already. I don't see how this can be good for the traffic congestion that already exists there. And I suspect with the maybes that I've heard about whether DOT is going to do this or that or the other thing, Oak Hill is a state road, I'm told now as well. And they've not done anything to improve Oak Hill, nor have they done anything to improve Midway Road, except the county got it paved just this summer. I think if this development goes forward, just even track B, the first one, we're going to see an overwhelming increase in traffic and congestion in this area, especially at school time. This has been very light since March. Schools have been in and out, and not much traffic problems have occurred. The congestion has not been normal. But when schools reopen and this development happens, there's going to be problems. Emergency vehicles will not be able to get through at certain times of the day, at a minimum. It's a potentially overwhelming traffic problem. High density housing in this area. I can categorically tell you that the residents in Country Place are opposed to this high density 5 homes per acre.
Just to clarify one point, the 450 maximum is written into the document, and so that is a change from previous versions of the document. So, but that is in the document in writing. That'll be capped at that number. So, 3, Article 3. So, like I said, I'm going to get copies of the most current document to the folks who want it, so they'll have that to be able to look at.
Anyone else after Mr. Stevens?
My name is Tom Thompson. I own property in Oakmont subdivision as well as Midway Road, 3032 Midway Road. So I'm kind of on either side of this proposal and have a lot of interest in it. I do want to talk a minute about traffic. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that, and anybody that lives in that area knows that four-way stop by the church is absolutely a nightmare in the morning. I can't imagine how we can go forward with a proposal like this on the fact that the state has a plan but no guaranteed timing and no commitment. So this is an incredible concern, but I think the other one that you're missing is Oak Hill Drive. Because Oak Hill, the four-way stop at Oak Hill by the elementary school is also very, very busy in the morning and even in the afternoon. In fact, when that traffic lines up to pick up kids, it becomes a standstill. You can't get through because they block the intersection. So, and I don't hear anything that's going to address that traffic problem, and yet the first phase of this plan is to build across from the elementary school. So I think that's a real traffic and safety concerns for our children as well. The other concern I have is it seems like we're continuing to push this slab, tiny home, tiny lot, I can reach out my window and touch my neighbor type subdivision. Where is the mix with some larger properties? You know, I understand the city's got to grow, and I understand there's a need for some of this, but I don't know why it has to be consistently this type of property. I mean, that's all we've seen in this area, one right after another. So I have a real concern with the density And the fact that it's all the same, we're not breaking this up into different types of plot plans. And so that's a little concern for me. And then my final concern, and I don't know that it fits in this meeting or not, but, we had a little discussion, Jeff helped me understand a little better before the meeting, but I have a real problem with the way that this property became available to annex. This 10-foot strip of land that was somehow a deal between the developer and the landowner to allow the city to annex just 12 feet of this individual's property, so that this property is now adjacent to the city. It may be legal, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but it sure in my mind is not ethical. And I have a real concern with why the city of Anderson would pursue such an avenue. It just bothers me from an ethics standpoint as much as anything. How do you provide police and fire service to 10 feet of somebody's lawn, right? You know, I'm sorry, I just don't. To me, it's devious and it's unethical, and I think it needs to be researched. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nancy Lee, and I live at 1214 Crestview Road. I'm not going to talk about the traffic. We already know how bad that is. But I'm not really I just heard about this from my neighbors a few days ago. We saw one little sign, so that's why I came down here. My question is about the actual sewer system that is proposed for all these homes. I have a home that's on 1.2 acres, and I was looking to, a few years ago, build a secondary, like a tiny home for my uncle, who was a Vietnam veteran who had Alzheimer's disease, and I was not allowed to do that on my property because I was short 0.12 acres, 0.12 of an acre. So I was unable to do that for him and had to move him into my home. But, so my question is, how are we putting 5 homes per acre with no sewer system? So that's one big question I have about how this is going forward as we go forward. I don't mind growth or development. I think that's all good for us, but we want to do it responsibly. And I feel that I'm a hospice nurse, so I get called out all times of the day, and I hold my breath when I have to leave my driveway. The traffic is really that bad. I'm safe. I look both ways. I wait until the other side's clear before I turn out, just in case someone tops the hill before can't see them. And so this way they could at least go to the left if there's no car there. So I'm very careful when I pull out. But with the schools there and the homes that are already there, we really do have a huge, and I didn't want to repeat what they were saying, our traffic. If anyone wants to come sit in my yard, at 3 o'clock I cannot mow my lawn close to the road because it's too dangerous. There's too many cars coming by so fast. So I can't do that. But so my concerns is the sewer system, number one, and then of course the traffic as well. So I please beg you to look into that before we approve this.
We do have sewer that runs, she may sound like her question, she may be on septic rather than sewer with the acreage issue, but this will be served by city sewer, and my understanding is that we do have capacity to handle this development. So sewer line runs through this area.
Ms. Lee, are you in the county? Is that?
She would be in the county, correct?
Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Nora Eaton, and I live at 304 Autumn Lane. That's in Hampton Acres. My land backs up to Midway Road. I live right up the road from this proposed situation. I'd like to first say, I don't know how this came about, but nobody has a vote about who is annexed into the city and not. I wish we had a vote. I grew up in the country, and we bought land here when we moved from Greenville City because we like the country, and we don't like living in the city. We lived in the city before in Greenville. I'd just like to say, I don't understand understand why the people of the community don't have a vote in a proposed, just the people who own the property and several other people around. And the traffic is going to be terrible. You put 575 houses, 2 cars each, plus probably a teenager or 2 with a car. That's a lot of cars. And we already have very bad traffic situations. And even if the DOT does something about it, we're still going to have major problems. And the roundabouts are a help, but they are not the whole help. Because Hannah High School, those kids, almost all of them have a car. And it's, they're going to go and come as they do. And I just don't see any hope of getting around in that area. With, you got Midway Elementary, Calhoun Elementary, Hannah High School, you've got North Point, and there's probably going to be more elementary schools out there. There's one next to Cox Glen, I can't think of the name of that one. But there are schools all over, and the traffic is not going to get better, even if the DOT does something for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Missy. As far as city council members, who would be the city council member for this? Would this be area?
Don Chapman,
Don Chapman.
District 2.
So, Ms. Eaton, I would suggest you call Don Chapman with the city, even though you're not probably in the city right now.
She's not, no.
But just to be able to have that voice in the city council meeting. Do we have anyone else that has something? Yes, sir.
At 2905 Ramblin' Path and Country Place. And my main concern, I know there's got to be growth, but I think you have to taper it. The reason why people bought what we bought is because we do have some land. It's not all one on another. And we don't want a whole cramped up subdivision, so we don't want a whole lot of townhouses. We bought for a reason too, and we've been there, and I think we need to be taken into consideration as well. And I agree about the little annexation thing. That really seems a little backhanded, honestly. Thank you.
Mr. Curtis, if I could ask you some questions again to rebuttal some of these. Mr. Thompson kind of came up with the track, with Martin Trail and some of the others, they've done different tracks where they've had different sizes for each track. I didn't really see that a whole lot in your PDD.
So some of the PDD there's some flexibility there, but I mean, our desire is that this community, okay, has, other communities within it that reach different buyer markets, okay, so that you have a section that may be more appealing to younger families. You may have a section that's more appealing to folks that are 55 plus. You may have some sections that are more, more estate home type things, but they would all share one really nice amenities area. There would be walking trails and things like that. That would be, a community that, the whole community would share, if that makes any sense. So our goal is to have, different price points of homes and different, styles of neighborhood, if you will, inside of one community. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question there.
So you're talking something akin to like Collinsworth Park and Greenwood minus the retail.
What now?
You're talking about something more akin to like the Collinsworth Park minus the retail section.
Correct, yes. I'm not very familiar with that neighborhood, just to be honest with you.
Well, they have everything from townhomes up to 5, 6, 7,000 square foot homes.
Right, yeah, you would have, it would be a blend there, so it would be that, that you would hit, different price points, different styles, that type of thing.
And there's nothing to go into the PDD about, I see in the different tracks you have the construction and maintenance, where it is the hardy board, vinyl, and it's really up to the builder. You're trying to make money on this, selling the homes, but I mean, is there anything we can do in the language for any of that, or is that just comes back before later on in a different day. I didn't know if that was for Jeff or for Mr. Curtis.
So really, what the document says, it says exterior building materials will consist of vinyl, shake siding, board and batten siding, hardy board, brick and/or stone, or a combination of those products. And so, you know, because kind of general language, it includes pretty much everything. And so we have had a problem in the past where I would say that we may have over-regulated a little bit in the exterior design of a PDD. We don't want to get quite that level. But this does kind of list out what their thoughts are on mix of materials on most of the houses, I think. But again, some of that's going to be more builder-driven than developer-driven. So.
And I know we brought up Martin's Trails because the PDD kind of matches that one, and that was voted on in 05. I don't even think they came back before the planning commission, in 16?
They did come back for a change in lot size, right? They wanted to reduce the lot sizes and get a few more lots in there, and that was actually approved. So they were able to do the 90 lots in Martin's Trail on that 30 acres, so.
And Mr. Curtis, one other thing was, with it being in there, that 450 residential units, that's what you're capping it out as?
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I have a question that's probably best for Jeff. You're asking us to approve this without a final, anything from DOT really, as to how they're going to deal with the traffic.
Correct.
How?
I wish I could give you more information, but I just can't. And so we do anticipate these things, and I mean, this is going to be 6 to 8 year build out. What do you anticipate?
It's going to be a lot.
And so
They're obviously thinking about taking away some of Harriet Circle, some of y'all, because there's a
Right.
graveyard is right there at the end, correct?
I can
Right.
promise you that we are pushing as hard, I mean, it has more effect on us and how we're able to develop the property. I mean, we are standing on the gas pedal with the DOT improvements to, every bit that we've got. Because trust me, it affects what we can and cannot do.
I mean, like
We're
Ms.
in
Lee
a
said,
situation and we're
like Ms. Lee
there's
said,
nobody driving
330
that
on Harriet Circle or Oak Hill
Right.
is awful.
I mean, I talked.
in that community too. I come in Midway Road into town every day. I mean, this development is, by this road, probably less than somewhere a quarter, half a mile of my house. So I'm
Right.
very familiar with the traffic patterns and things like that. And, we have confidence that the DOT is on board with the project. There's been kind of what Jeff was telling you earlier. There's more definitive solutions about what happens at Crestview and Midway, and then there's kind of been the either ors, and once they nail down the either ors with the Harriet Circle / Midway thing, then I think that it's something that can get moving forward.
We spoke with DOT today. I talked with Michael, who's our transportation planner. He called the project manager today just to see where they were in terms of timing with getting those recommendations to us. They did not have them available yet. They're hoping the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then once we agreed on that, then it would go into engineering. So obviously I can't promise you anything, but everything that I have seen indicates that the project will move forward. It's just a matter of exactly when. And I wouldn't even hazard a guess. So, because whatever I guess would be wrong some way. And so, but everything, it's funded in the plan, it's going through the steps, and of course, COVID has slowed this down just like it has everything else. But all indications are that this is moving forward, it's be in engineering soon, but I'm not going to overpromise because I don't control that.
One thing on the PDD, I was wondering, is there any way to put in language for, we have this landscaping, but we don't have any for the actual entrance way, controlling where those are. I didn't know.
Their development standards.
There's entryway language in there, but again, part of the issue with the actual locations of the entrances are these road improvements with DOT. James has sort of I'm assuming he has a thought of what his ideal would be, and then you'd have an entrance here and an entrance here. But if DOT goes in a different direction, then he may have to do things differently with the layout. And so until we get that finality from DOT, some of that we just don't know yet. So.
In section D, that is the first development. Are you planning on having entryways on both Harriet Circle and Midway?
I think we'll have them on Oak Hill
And Harriet.
and Harriet.
Very little of it will touch Midway, so.
I think we'll start at Oak Hill, and I think that once the DOT happens with either Harriet or Midway, we'll tie in at that location. I mean, we'll tie into the future of whatever the DOT does, if that makes any sense.
And based on, I know we don't know what the DOT is going to do, we can talk about numbers, right? But based on estimates, what do you estimate 400, and what was the code?
450 would be the max.
450 houses, how many traffic incidents, and how many companies going a day?
So the transportation manual says that a single-family house averages between 9 and 10 trips a day. Now, you go to the grocery store and come home, that's 2 trips. So it's not as much as some people think, and townhouses generate slightly less than that. So even if you assume they're all single-family and you max out at 450, that would be 4,500 car trips a day added to what's there now. But again, those are coming out on Crestview, they're coming out on Harriet Circle, they could come out on Midway potentially, Oak Hill, so they're coming out at different spots throughout the development. It's not all just being dumped on the Harriet Circle, so.
All right. We'll move around. Any other questions for, all right, so we need to bring up a motion for either annexation and zoning to PDD, because if we annex, we've got to bring it in somehow, and then move it along to the city council meeting next Monday.
It's on the 14th.
The 14th. So do I hear a motion for either approval or denial of ANX 2013? I will go ahead and make a motion, staff recommendation that we approve annexation and zoning of the PDD ANX 2013. We can continue discussion from there. I have a problem putting the cart before the horse as well. We're going ahead and zoning when we don't know anything with transportation. But I think that we need to push this along to the city council meeting where they can talk about it a little bit more. So the motion is on the table for ANX 2013. Second by Carr. Any more conversation on that? Hearing none, we need to make a vote on whether to make a motion to approve. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And nays?
Nay.
2. All right, so it moves along 5-2 and goes to the city council meeting on December 14th.
December 14th, which is a Monday at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And as of right now, that would be in the city council chambers, not at this location. So,
And for anyone who is looking for the most current PDD, they need to get in touch with you, correct?
yes, they can either call me, or if they want to give their email address to Shalandria, then I'll be happy to email that to them.
All right, so Mr. Stevens, did you hear that with Ms. Salandria with getting the most current?
I believe I already have, I believe I sent you an earlier copy, I think. Dr. Stevens, right?
Yes.
I have your email address, so I'll send you another one. So,
Regarding the current PDD. about
right, the most updated document.
All right.
You're going to send me a PDF on that?
It's a PDD document, send you a copy of the document. Right.
All right, moving right along, we'll go to RZ 2010, for the request to rezone 1509 East River Street, from the office to general commercial.
Yes, sir. The applicant is requesting approval to rezone the property at 1509 East River Street from LO Limited Office to GC General Commercial. The property currently contains a commercial-style building and parking area. The applicant seeks to operate a U-Haul business with rental vehicle storage. Under the current LO guidelines, vehicle rentals are not allowed, and this requires a GC General Commercial zoning classification. Car sales and car rentals, that's the only district that they're allowed in is General Commercial. In terms of existing zoning, the property is currently zoned LO Limited Office. This property was the subject of a rezoning in June of last year when it was changed from R5 single-family residential to LO. At the time, the applicant proposed to utilize the site for office-related uses. What we had was a case where it had been a hair salon, but it was non-conforming because it was a hair salon in a residential zoning classification. It went vacant for a while, and so it was no longer grandfathered in. And so we had them, when they were looking to utilize the property again, we had them rezone it. At the time, LO met their stated needs. They have since changed that to wanting to do the U-Haul rental, and so that does require another rezoning up to general commercial. Budding properties in the city there behind it are zoned R5 single-family residential. There are properties zoned GC General Commercial across East River Street and Shockley Ferry Road. Again, and you have that map in your packet as well showing the area. The LO Limited Office zoning allows low-intensity commercial uses that are generally compatible with surrounding residential uses. In terms of existing land use, again, the parcel currently contains a commercial-style building. Budding properties are residential in general. Future land use. The future land use map and comprehensive plan indicate that this area is medium-density residential. That would be compatible with the R5 and R10 single-family residential zoning districts. Again, in 2019, when discussions took place regarding the potential for rezoning the subject property, it was determined that the LO office, limited office zoning classification was appropriate for the site. Since a commercial-style building was already in existence on the site, it was a practical move to rezone it. The LO zoning allows a number of office and personal service uses that can be compatible with the abutting residential neighborhood. The proposed GC general commercial zoning allows more intensive land uses that may not be compatible to the nearby residential environment. As you can see in the map, basically everything else in the block surrounding this is zoned single family. That is what we are basing our recommendation on. We do realize that there is commercial across the street, but we are basing it on the uses in the block itself. And so based on this, staff is recommending denial of the request. I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, and the applicant is here tonight as well.
Back in 2019, was it the same ownership? Or?
Yes.
Is the property currently being used for?
Not at this time. I believe they're maybe doing some work on it, and they're basically, the main thing he wants to do now is the U-Haul, and so everything is having to wait until we go through this process. So
basically,
there was some storage in there at one time as well, but well.
So the U-Haul business does not conform. You couldn't store
the trucks there, right? Because it has to be zoned general commercial to do the rental business there.
Any other questions for staff?
And what your main objection to this would be that general commercial opens it up to other things that could be.
Right. I mean, when we look at a rezoning, you know, and we talked about this before the meeting, you know, when I talk to people about it, and it's less of an issue with this property because it's so small, but when you're rezoning it, you're not rezoning it for his specific request. You're rezoning it and have to assume that anything that's listed there as a use could go in that property. I'm less concerned here because it's so small versus if it were a 5 or 10 acre piece. But the same sort of standard applies. Everything else in that block is single family. And so, our general recommendation on a case like that, the limited office fits, general commercial might be a bit too much for the neighbors, so.
When was the general commercial on, corner of Gossett and Shepherd?
It's been there, I came here in 1999, it's been here at least that long, and may have, I'm sure has been there quite a bit longer than that, so.
What's there now?
There's a gas station across the street, and the large rectangular building has a couple of different commercial uses in it. I want to say maybe an auto parts store.
About this small one.
About the little triangle.
I believe that has also been there for a good length of time. It's not been a recent thing where we've rezoned that, so.
Is there anything in that building right now, do you know?
This building here, do you know if there's a use in there?
I don't think it's being used at all.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah. Every other corner is zone GC except this one.
Correct.
Did anybody call, did the neighbors call?
I have not received any calls since this has gone on.
All right, thank you. Do we need to hear from the property owner?
Do you want to make a statement or just answer questions?
I'm the property manager.
If you don't mind, go to the mic for me and just state your name.
I'm the property manager. My name's Gary Simpson, for my daughter. She's the owner of the property. We've had this property probably 28 years. Never had any problem with it. As y'all can see, every other corner is general commercial on it. And if you look real close to 1509 East River Street, at one time it was general commercial. But we went in there and put a brand new roof on it. And when we done that, we didn't know that it was going to fall back to residential. But we got the building ready to go again. The city council comes by there and tells me that I'm not going to be able to use the building because it's going to fall back to residential. I didn't know what he meant at the time. And also, this problem sort of started. None of this other property falls back to residential. It's been empty. The property across the street where beach number 5 used to be, it did fall back to residential. But at one time, the city council member wanted to buy this property from us, and he only offered us 1/3 of what it was worth. So naturally, we told him we didn't want to sell it. Well, ever since then, we've had problems with the city about this property. The leaser, all he wants to do is put a U-Haul travel center there. It's just U-Haul trucks and U-Haul trailers. He's already revitalized the property across the street with a used car lot, and he owns the whole corner over there.
Right, diagonally across from this property is where he's talking about.
We're wanting to put this back general commercial, just like it used to be. I mean, every corner but our corner is general commercial. And we just want it back like it was, where he can use it to put his U-Haul trucks over there. That's all he wants to do. We're not trying to put no record service in there with no bunch of junk cars. We just want him to be able to put his U-Haul service there. That's all.
And just to clarify about the reversion back to the single family, the properties in red are all zoned general commercial. And so if they go empty for a time, it doesn't matter because the zoning is commercial. And so they can go back to commercial, they could go to office, they could go back to retail because they're zoned commercial. This property at the time, all this came about, we saw work going on. Our inspector asked us about it because we were thinking about permits, whether they had permits to do work, that sort of thing. And we realized then that it had been vacant for some time. And when you have a case where it's an office use or commercial use but residential zoning, that's when that issue comes into play. And it happens, once a year, once every couple of years where we have to deal with this. And what we usually do is what we did back in 2019. We got it rezoned to a use that allowed them to continue using the building as office / personal services. to sort of correct that issue. Now, in terms of it being zoned general commercial sometime in the past, I don't know if that's accurate or not. It would have been zoned R15 since 1998 when our current ordinance went into effect. But I don't know what it was before that. So whether it was some other commercial zoning or not. But
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this? Hearing none. Does anybody have any other questions for staff, or would anyone like to make a motion on RZ 2010?
I'll make a motion to approve RZ 2010.
Rezoned to general commercial. A second. All right, so we have a motion to approve the proposed zoning of general commercial. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right. So it'll move forward to the December 14th
Correct.
City Council.
right.
All right, moving right along to RZ 2011.
The applicant is requesting approval to rezone the property at 1514 South Murray Avenue from RM10 multifamily to GC General Commercial to allow car sales on the site. The building on the property has been used as an automotive repair facility in the past. The building has been vacant for more than 4 months now, so the automotive repair use is no longer grandfathered in. The property must be rezoned to allow future car sales on the site. In terms of existing zoning, as you see on the map, it is zoned RM10. It does abut on two sides, general commercial zone property. And then the property across the street on Towers is zoned light industrial. The RM10 multifamily district allows single and multifamily uses. The general commercial district allows for a variety of residential, office, and commercial uses. This is the lowest level of commercial zoning that will allow car sales on the site. In terms of existing land use, again, the parcel currently contains a commercial building. It's a repair garage that is on there with car bay doors and all that. I mean, it looks like a garage. Again, it was used as an automotive repair facility in the past. Abutting properties are commercial in nature with a number of car sales and repair facilities in the area. The future land use map and comprehensive plan indicate that this area is multifamily residential, which is compatible with the R10 and RM10 and RM18 multifamily residential zoning districts. The property has been used as an automotive repair facility in the past. It is surrounded by commercial and industrial zoning and uses. The building is clearly a commercial building that would not be used for any residential purposes. Staff would like to request a general site plan that would be submitted prior to City Council action on the request. This will provide some additional details on how the applicant would access the lot and where cars would be displayed for sale. If you look at the lot, it appears to have frontage on Tower Street. That is fenced in. There's sort of a dirt drive that comes from the front of the building out to Murray Avenue, but that is not on their property. So we just want to clarify a few issues of where everything's going to be located, where the car is going to be displayed, where their access is going to be, and make sure that they have agreements in place for that. But we feel they can do that between now and the City Council meeting.
Is this the old Mercedes?
Yes,
Okay.
right. And based on that information, the staff does recommend approval of this request.
Have you received any calls on this?
We have not.
Hearing that, any other questions? Hearing none, we'll go on to the motion on RZ 2011. Motion to approve, motion second. Hearing that, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move forward to the December 14th. And finally, this is, thank you for being with us, RZ 2013.
Yes, sir. The applicant is requesting approval to rezone the property at 812 West Whitner Street from RM10 multifamily to NP Neighborhood Professional. The building on the property has been used as a law office in the past. It's very similar to our East River Street example. It's been vacant for more than 4 months now, so the office use is no longer grandfathered in. The property must be rezoned to allow future office uses on the site. Again, in terms of existing zoning, the property is zoned RM10 multifamily. Abutting properties are also zoned RM10 multifamily, while the property across the street is zoned R5 single-family residential. The RM10 district again allows for single and multifamily uses. The neighborhood professional district allows for single-family and professional office uses only. This is our lowest level of commercial zoning that will allow office uses on the site. And it doesn't even allow our personal services category, which is allowed essentially everywhere else. So single-family residential or office use. The future land use map, a comprehensive plan, again indicate that this would be multifamily residential, which is compatible with the RM10 and RM18 multifamily residential zoning districts. In terms of a recommendation, this property has been used as a law office for many years in the past. The property is set up for office use with an existing parking area in the rear of the property. The owner is renovating the site and has been before the Board of Architectural Review for their approval. The neighborhood professional district is also the lowest level of commercial zoning available, again allowing only single-family and professional office uses. Based on this, the staff does recommend approval of the request.
Any other questions for staff?
This is Kerry Doyle's old office.
Dick McDade, all of it.
Yeah, it was several attorneys in there. I don't recall exactly, but I remember several names on the sign.
It was the Doyle, McDade.
McDade, I had to take an exam in there one time. It's a beautiful office building.
Right. It's in the West Side Historic District, and so it's been through that process for the exterior renovations, the paint color changes.
So basically, it's going back to RM10, and we just need to look at it for neighborhood.
Neighborhood professional, correct.
Any calls on this from the
No.
neighborhood? Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to be approved.
All right, Mr. Seegers make the motion to be approved. Enzi seconds it. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you for your patience. Anything else on the agenda? All right, hearing nothing else, we will consider ourselves adjourned. There you go, Enzi.